Hi everybody, it is Wrath of Kings week here on BeastofWar.com, and it is time for your chance to win some of the fantastic prizes we have up for grabs. First up, we have 4 2-player starter bundles to get you and a mate into the world of Wrath of Kings, which include the Honor and Treachery 2-player starter set, the Rising Conflicts book, the Book 1 card deck, and a token set. On top of that, one lucky winner is going to be getting an expanded version of this 2-player starter set, which will include an additional Nasier starter box and an additional Goritsi starter box. Get your comments in on Beasts of War, Facebook and YouTube on any of the themed content this week for your chance to win. Hi everybody, welcome back to Wrath of Kings week here on Beasts of War. I am of course joined by Dave and Brian from Cool Money or Not, and today we're having a chat about the types of terrain you're going to want to use to build Wrath of Kings tables. So this is one of the things that's really important, because it's all well and good, you know, back in the day whenever people were playing on the kitchen table, you know, using a stack of books for a building, you know, using a fizzy bottle for a tower. What exactly do you want to design whenever you're designing the world of Wrath of Kings on your gaming table?
Well, I think there's a lot of different ways that you can go. As we talked through this week, we've seen a lot of art, we've seen a lot of the environments, but what I thought we'd talk about today is really the quickest way that you can go about doing it. There are a lot of fantastic laser cutting companies out there that do some fantastic buildings. There's lots of ways you can get trees and rocks and hills. I'm not sure if we've got one, but do you have a map?
Yeah. You sent me one through. Excellent. I come prepared. So, ta-da!
Okay.
Welcome to the world of Wrath of Kings.
Okay. So this is the main sort of continent here that we see to the left is Arikania. And around there we can see Hadros in the bottom right, which is where House Hadros rule. To the left of that is Felskar, which is where House Technus rule. Going clockwise around from there is Akrion, which is House Shaelhan. Teloria to the north, which is Goritsi.
Yes.
And to the right of them is Kartaresh, who are House Nasier.
All right, well, I'll tell you what. Let's work from the ground up. So let's start with Felskar.
Felskar.
What sort of terrain are we looking at in that area?
Okay, so for Felskar, they're sort of the most, I guess, steampunky looking.
Aggressively industrial.
Okay.
Aggressively industrial is a great way to put it in a fantasy world.
Yeah.
So something like a lot of the pieces we've got on the table here are from Foreground.
Yeah, I think pretty much everything but 2 bits.
Actually, yeah, you're right. Absolutely correct. We love the work that Foreground do, and some of their fantasy buildings that they've been doing, like they've just been spectacular and fit right in. So something like the Grimstock Range.
Right. So something along these lines. So what would this be? Sort of a Technus sort of area where you would want to put something like this?
Something like this would be perfect for a Technus settlement, a Technus town. Technus village would be just fine.
You could easily see that a bunch of their, industry warehouse workers and things could live in this place.
Yeah. And then it's one of those things. It's very brightly coloured. So what I would possibly suggest people doing is maybe do something a little more drab with it. So while it's still in the sprue, give that a coat of a nice grey or brown primer, just to draw everything back to that sort of muted tones that I kind of expect from Technus, or even just that
an industrial
nice
feel.
Or you could always sponge on some dark inks or anything for oil spots and stuff to try and especially down and around like the gutters and stuff.
So whenever you're coming across here, sponge some dirt and grime in there. Yeah, that could be very, very cool. Right, where do you want to go to next?
I think next we will head around to Hadros.
Formerly known as Osakar, before they found the Deep Sea Kingdom.
Yep.
Okay.
Sorry.
So, no, absolutely fine. Most of the sort of the people who have been changed by the deep voices live in the deeps. They can come out, they can act on land, but they don't live there.
Yeah.
but not all of Hadros are fishmen.
Yeah.
There are still a lot of humans there. They run their port towns, they run the trade and that sort of thing for them.
And because they're humans and non-augmented, they're not really going to be drawn into the military too much.
Exactly. And, no matter how much I would love to see a mostly undersea board for the game, that makes it very difficult to play anyone but other Hadros.
Yeah.
So you could easily do some really cool coastal type stuff.
Yep. So in the table that we used for the demo game, it was basically a port town, and we used a lot of these buildings.
So this is the
Mortenberg
Range.
Mortenberg
is what this one's called. So this is some of the high street buildings. They also do some really nice portside dwellings as well, which are like 3-story buildings. And then these, if I remember correctly, are the back streets of Mortenberg. This is one of my favorite fantasy ranges for actually building with, because the actual build of it, I keep telling people this, it puts me in my Zen place. So I could sit and maybe build 10 of these in one day. But that's just me. I zone out, stick on something on the TV, and just work away, and it goes together beautifully, and you get a great result when you're done with it.
Yep, definitely.
And one thing that they'll get 5 guys at Foreground, if I can just hijack the thing for a minute, is you see these insert panels.
Yep.
If you want to change the color of your building, just give that a spray before it goes in.
Yep.
Because the dark edge, you don't see it whenever it goes in, and you can just have a really different color and feel. So if you're building something for the likes of Hadros, give it that nice blue gold feel, and actually just have some of the stuff in there. And if you're handy with transfer paper, my mate John from here in the office got some recently. Get that logo and actually do a little print out and put transfers onto your building to
that'd be cool.
Brand them to your faction. It's like what we did with the Dark Age table. Lloyd did those nice banners. Doing something like that could make it look really, really cool and really thematic for your faction.
Indeed. Yep. Definitely cool.
Hijack.
I think this range of buildings as well as this one includes things like the Stoic Arms, and the enormous watchtower. I think those would be fantastic for sort of centering a table in Teloria. To House Goritsi. You can imagine that surrounded by forests. I use that wonderful segue there. Pull out the...
before we pull those out, there's another thing for those. They do ruined versions of those as well.
Oh, okay.
So if you're working through a campaign, you could actually have them change that as you're playing through, that more and more ruined buildings are turning up. And then that'll change things like line of sight and stuff, so you can actually show the progression of a city or a town or a port town being destroyed as you go.
That'll be great.
Definitely.
Now, trees, you were saying?
Trees, yeah. So imagine those tall buildings, the Stoic Arms, the watchtower, that sort of thing, being surrounded by the foreground trees, which are wonderful, and they tower over the miniatures on the table. It gives you that real like forest sort of feel.
Properly scaled trees. These are some of the best I've seen in the industry. Although what you actually get with the set, whenever you're putting these together, you get a little flat biscuit at the bottom. So whenever we actually got these, what we did was we took some Das clay.
Okay.
So it's just a water-based clay, and if you look under the close camera, nice and close, I'll show you here, we actually spread that over it to actually give you a little bit of undulation on those.
Yep.
Just really helps them along.
Yeah, definitely. And gives a little bit of extra weight down there on the base.
Exactly.
Less likely to get toppled over by an errant dice.
Or an errant warren.
Oh, yeah. So one of the other things that I think would work well for Teloria is their Foregrounds Ruins of Doldor range. So we've got 2 sort of versions here.
Yeah, now this one is one that we actually had our guy John in the studio here do a lot of work to. So what he did was he made up a snow mix, nice and thick, and just had it as like little drifts and piles of snow
really neat
around here. And then he actually custom did a base for it, did it up along the tops and stuff as well. Then on the other side of things, these ones I brought in specifically for you guys coming, is just the basic Ruins of Doldor set. But what we've done is, we took this one step further than just when it's built. We took just a simple grey dry brush to it, and it brings it up just that little bit extra and blends it all in nicely. So it looks really, really cool.
So these ones without the snow, the ones with the snow would be fantastic for, you can see up in Janoris, Lusk, the snowy sort of covered areas of Teloria there would be fantastic.
We could do sort of an attack coming from one of the other factions, going deep into their territory. So do a patrol mission or something like that.
Come around from behind.
Well, and there's a really cool piece of Goritsi art that has a castle up in the woods. So you could easily combine less of the ruined castle parts, or put as much for them together, and put a bunch of the trees in between to make little patches of terrain that you have to work around. I think that it'd be really cool to see a winter forest board.
That could be very cool.
And then I think the next place that you could use those the walls without the snow are also in a lot of the port towns.
Yeah.
We saw a fantastic piece of artwork in the Nasier video, where the walled towns and then the Nasier looking huts.
Yeah.
So that'd be fantastic to start setting up that kind of table.
Yeah.
Which also brings us sort of back around to some rocky areas, mountainous areas, and these are two pieces that many of your viewers will be familiar with.
Yeah, these are custom built by Lloyd. We have a tutorial on how to make these, which is pop-up rocks.
Yep.
So if I put this under here, and most terrain, if I was to make this out of, say, polystyrene or something, I couldn't do this.
Oh no! Oh, it's fine. Do it again.
I'm gonna take that piece.
Yeah. And I mean, like, they do look fantastic. They make a nice blocking line of sight piece of terrain. And the best bit about these is, you see, if you get 2 of these or 3 of these, you can squish them together, put a rubber band around them, and they transport really, really well.
Yeah.
That, and they're rugged as like nothing I've ever seen.
Definitely.
So
I expect you'll be able to put a link below.
Oh yeah,
that'll take you straight to the
tutorial for that. Yep. And if anyone has been paying attention to the vlog in the last little while, we actually showed you guys us doing the big table we did for this. We actually did a big cliff face out of this, and I tell you this, that is one of the best pieces I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I want to do more work with that material to make other boards in the future.
Yep, absolutely.
Hopefully Wrath of King ones.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, so quick question. Terrain density. Now, the game's played on a 4x4 board. So say I had complete 4x4 blank. How many buildings should I be laying down?
I would probably say that because there's not very much ranged combat, there's a little bit of magic and there's a little bit of range, but most of Wrath of Kings is going to be close combat. It's going to be up close and personal. You don't necessarily need to fill your board with a bunch of scatter terrain. Having maybe one good piece of some kind, whether it's a cottage or a chunk of a wall or a small copse of trees, for roughly every 12 inches or so, I think is probably a decent amount. Gives you enough room to maneuver. When you're putting your board together, you do have to keep in mind that if you are playing a larger game, move those pieces apart a little farther, because otherwise you're just going to hit choke points. You're going to get choke points and choke points and choke points, and not to mention some of the larger models might be completely, they will have difficult time getting through. On top of that, because of the rules of Wrath of Kings terrain, before you sit down and play your game, you have to make sure that you let everybody know, what do these, is this cottage size 5 or is it just impassable? Are these rocks size 2 with rough 2? You're gonna have to make sure that that all players involved know what's going on. And if it's like your game shopping or in a tournament or something, put up a poster that says all rocks are size 2, rough 1. All
that's a good idea.
That way there's no ambiguity. This rock. I love the squishy rocks.
They're fantastic.
This rock is exactly going to be what I need to hide my longhorn.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you don't have someone lifting their arm every fart sound to call over a judge to make a call on a piece of terrain.
Exactly.
Also in the terrain keywords, there are things that are like inspiring and so on. So getting stuck into building your own piece of terrain that matches your faction and would be inspiring for them is another cool, exciting thing that you can do.
Love to see like a big, like a dragon statue, a coiled dragon statue for Shaelhan, something along those lines.
Yeah, we see there's a company that we have a lot of stuff from. It's not Foreground. Oh, what's her name? Hearst Arts. Molds. And what we did was, once we cast up a pile of it and we started building like dungeon sets and stuff out of it.
Okay.
So I wouldn't mind actually building, for a patrol-sized game, actually do the inside of a castle with something like that.
That would be awesome.
And actually just have your forces fighting in really tight, close quarters corridors, so you really have to be tactical and careful with where stuff's going to reach your objectives and stuff. think that could be fantastic.
With something like that, you'd make sure your opponent knew, so they didn't bring like the Hateforged Titan or something along those lines.
Yeah, but I mean, like, that would be something prearranged between you and your opponent. You know.
You could even scale that down to, like we've been talking about with the 2-player starter set, 6 ranks of infantry, 1 rank of leader, 2 ranks of specialists.
Have it that bottom level of combat where you're just so focused in, where each guy is so important.
That could be a lot of fun.
That could be fantastic.
I'm going to have to have a word with John and Studio, see if we can get something like that on the go.
That would be fantastic, yeah.
Okay, is that us done for chatting about terrain?
I think so. There's a lot of, we've had a great time talking with the guys at Foreground about what their current rangers can do in the world of Arikania.
Yeah.
We're looking forward to talking with them in the future about perhaps doing some particular things. I think Shailhan and Nasier are two that their standard buildings aren't really represented by any commercially available products at the moment.
Yeah.
So we'll get there. Right, I think, well,
I'll say I love the idea that you're wanting to give your gamers an easy way to show off the world.
Absolutely.
That fantastical side of it, actually make them feel like they're playing where their faction would be. So I tell you what, everybody, I want you to do me a favor. Drop me your comments below, but also I want you to drop some images below of any Wrath of Kings tables that you have built or that you think would work incredibly well for this game, and share them with everybody else out there. Myself, Dave, and Brian will move on here, and we'll see you again soon.
Thank you.